We are the champions.
We are the champions. We are the champions. We are the champions. Wake up.
Whoa, what the hell was that? I'm awake. I'm awake. We're back. We're back. It's time. We've got to get into this. We've got to record. What has changed? What's going on? Let's get into it. Season 3 preview coming up. Hello everybody, I am Fuzzyface. Welcome back to this Audi career on Motorsport Manager. That's right, last season we were the champions of the world. We won the Constructors' Championship, we won the Drivers' Championship with Sebastian Vettel. This second season was absolutely great for us. A little bit ahead of schedule, I didn't think we'd be able to get up there, but we had some luck in the early part of the season. We had a few good results, and then we followed a really good development path. And towards the end of the season, we had, I think it was 4 races where we finished 1-2. Vettel winning 3 of those, Gasly winning 1 of those. And by the time the other teams jumped back above us and we were sort of cooling off, we'd pretty much got the title wrapped up and we didn't really need the results to finish off the season as championship. We wrapped it up with 1 race to go. So heading into the last race of the season, Germany, our home Grand Prix, we were already champions. Pretty much down to Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes struggling with their developments last season as well. So when we upgraded and got a little bit ahead, we weren't really that far ahead, but once we got to that point, we were able to get a few race wins under our belt, which secured the championship. But anyway, here we go. We've got the new livery. We've got white, green, red and black. I mean, I like this. It's sort of along the lines of the Audi Formula 1 car. As you can see, I'm not going to hover over that, but the overall quality of the car, we're a little bit above average. But even though we're a little bit above average, we are quite far down the list in order of the cars. A lot of the cars have made improvements. There's still that convergence going on that I was on about. A lot of the cars are running pretty close together. The engine needs some work, the gearbox needs work, the rear wing needs work here in the early part of the season, whereas the brakes, the front wing and the suspension are all pretty decent. So we're going to be concentrating on the engine first like we did last season. We do need to get that engine up and running again. We've got the new engine going into the car for the start of the season, but as I thought, it wasn't that big of an upgrade, and we've seen some of the other cars upgrade that engine as well. So what we're going to do here now, we've got the Season 3 preview coming up. We're just going to run down all the teams, where the drivers have gone, the new liveries. There's quite a few changes going on. Some of them were forced upon me by the AI moving drivers about if they've moved out of a team. I'm not going to move them back, but it has thrown up some quite interesting driver moves. So we'll just get into that. We're going to run down it alphabetically, which means we will be starting off with Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo, they return the services of Valtteri Bottas and Mick Schumacher. They were pretty decent last season. Mick Schumacher, I think he did get a race win last season. Bottas wasn't as close. I think Mick actually beat him last season. We can't actually go look at the standings because that would give away where all the drivers have gone, so we can't go that far in. We've got a new livery. As you probably saw, it's red and grey on the Alfa Romeo. Their car is looking pretty decent as well. We're not going to hover over that because it will give the full list of the order of the cars. But anyway, Alfa Romeo looking pretty strong here. Hopefully they can carry on their upwards trend with the Ferrari power in that car. Maybe a good season for them. Tyre wear looking pretty good as well. Fuel efficiency good for them as well. We move on to Aston Martin. They retain the same livery as last season. The car a little bit below average over here. The drivers, one of the worst on the grid, Kevin Magnussen, has moved here, having spent last season back at Haas after a quick spell at Williams. Lance Stroll retains the second seat. I mean, the car below average, drivers a long way below average. Might be a struggle, you never know. Aston Martin does sometimes follow a good development path. They've got Mercedes power in that car, but we never know. Might not be the best of seasons for the former Racing Point team here in 2023. Next, we move on to us briefly. We went over it. We've still got Vettel. We've retained the services of Gasly. There's no point changing that. Vettel is going to chase back-to-back Drivers' Championship here. Whether the car is up to scratch in the early going, we don't know. Obviously, we're bumping the difficulty up another notch just to make it a little bit harder for ourselves. But Gasly is developing into a really good driver. He is 4.5 stars, whereas Vettel has taken on the mentor trait. which helps teammates to improve faster. So he's going to stay here, and then maybe if he retires at the end of the season or decides to move on, we've got Pierre Gasly, who's going to, I mean, he's only 30 years old. With the mentor stat from Vettel, hopefully he's going to improve a little bit more, but I just don't know what sort of season we're in for. We've got good improvability, we've got good fuel efficiency, whereas we're 4 stars for tyre wear and tyre heating. Next, we move on to one of the biggest changes that we've got going on this season. We've got Ford Performance Haas Formula 1 team. So Ford and Haas have teamed up here, bringing new power, a new car, well, not really a new chassis because it is a little bit behind the order in the chassis, but Haas last season were Renault powered. This season, I mean, they're pretty much a works team now with Ford being involved. It does have a Ford engine in there, and here we go with the big change. Max Verstappen has moved away from Mercedes. I mean, I did want him to stay at Mercedes, but the AI decided to move him out of there. He has ended up here, and as we can see, this Ford Performance Haas is a really good car. They've got a good driver lineup. Joseph Newgarden has been having, quite a good, we can't actually see what he did last season, but he does have a podium and a win under his name last season in a Haas car that was running at the back of the grid for most of it, but Haas much improved here with the Ford partnership. They could be in for a really good season. They don't have the staff there, whether that is going to make a big difference. Obviously the lead designer, he's going to make a difference as the upgrades go on throughout the season, but hopefully Haas can keep up with this. They've got a nice new blue livery going on here, so maybe Haas are going to be right up there come the end of the season. A few more wins. Max Verstappen, he's had 2 disappointing seasons at Mercedes, as we see. We see last season 3 podiums, 0 wins, 9 podiums, 2 wins. The AI did try to move him to Aston Martin. I didn't want him in that car because Aston Martin is terrible this season, so he has ended up with Haas, Ford Performance Haas, and yeah, could be a decent season for the American outfit this season. Next, we move on to McLaren. As you can see with their car, it is the best overall car. We didn't do the fan boost for last season heading into this season. We did the season before, which is why McLaren got that big performance boost increased. I mean, they've just followed a really good development path. They've stayed ahead. They've got a decent engine because they have the Mercedes engines. They've got a pretty decent chassis all round. They had this car pretty much last season, but a lot of it was disappointing. I mean, they were out of the running pretty early on and couldn't get things together at all. Hopefully it's going to be a better season for them this season. Carlos Sainz, it looks like he's starting to drop off. I don't know whether he's got a stat in here. Yeah, he's just had a house fire, which is going to last for the next 8 weeks. So Sainz isn't going to have the best of starts to the season. Whereas Lando Norris has just developed over these 2 seasons that we've run. He's nearly a 5-star driver now, one of the better drivers in the game, in the best car. I mean, oops, we've gone over there. You didn't see that. You didn't see that running order. But anyway, they've got one of the best cars. They've got Norris in the car, one of the best drivers. Now, this could be an interesting year for McLaren. Next, we move on to Mercedes. The livery has not changed, but Charles Leclerc has left Ferrari and taken the seat of Max Verstappen. This was a move that the AI did, and I thought it's too interesting not to change it back. So we've left Leclerc in at Mercedes. He will be partnered by George Russell. I mean, that is an almighty driver lineup. As we can see, Ferrari do have the best driver lineup. We don't know who is there at the moment. Obviously it was Hamilton and Leclerc last season. Mercedes here with Leclerc and Russell, the second best driver lineup. Should be a really good season for them. Their car is nearly the best. They had a pretty long spell where that car wasn't up to scratch last season, so hopefully Mercedes are going to be a lot better this season. Tyre wear good, improvability good, which is important for them as they upgrade their car this season. Then we move on to Prima. It's pretty much the same as last season. Giovinazzi, Robert Schwartzman still in this car. Schwartzman is developing into a pretty decent driver. That driver lineup is 11th best overall. The car, I mean, it's not too bad, but it's not anywhere near average. I think it's possibly the 11th best car on the grid. But Giovinazzi, Schwartzman, they did have some decent results last season. If we just have a look here, I think he's still the lead designer last season. Look, 2 podiums and a win last season. I think it was Schwartzman that won the race last season. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near that this season because a lot of the top order cars have improved quite a bit. But anyway, they've got 5 stars for efficiency, tyre wear, whereas it's the tyre heating and approvability, which is a little bit down. But anyway, Prima, they'll be at the back of the order. Maybe they'll get into the top 10 a few times. But anyway, we'll move on to the next team, which is Red Bull Honda. Not much has changed here. Yuri Vips, Fernando Alonso retain their drives. Alonso is now 44 years old. I mean, his stats are not dropping. Vips has improved to a 4.5-star driver. The car, meanwhile, Red Bull, are quite a long way behind that car. Is not quite close enough to being average. I mean, I don't know what happened to them. I mean, that car is just a long way behind. Might be a tough start to the season for Red Bull, but we're just going to have to see how they go over the first few races here. Next, we move on to Renault. Esteban Ocon here is back with the team, having spent last season at Aston Martin. He started this game with Renault, moved to Aston Martin, is now back with Renault. Sergio Perez retains his seat here with the team as well. Daniel Ricciardo has left. The car is below average. The first season, last season, Renault did have the best car. They couldn't put it together at all. They've dropped off here. Improvability is the only one they have at 5 stars. Might be another tough season here for Renault. We know with the best car, they're not that good. With a car that's below average, what are they going to be like? We don't know. But anyway, might be a tough season for Renault. They might surprise us. You never know. But we'll move on to the next team in the running order, and that is Rocket Williams. They've returned to almost a previous livery. They've got that nice electric sort of light blue on the car. Nico Hulkenberg retains his seat. Nick De Vries has taken over from Nicholas Latifi. De Vries finally gets his shot in Formula 1. The driver lineup is the 10th best overall. We're scouting Nick De Vries because I'm not quite sure what his star rating is. I think it's about 4. He's not that far behind Hulkenberg, who's getting on there. I think Hulkenberg has lost a step and he's having a secret affair at the moment, which is why his star rating has dropped a tiny bit. But that Williams car is looking pretty decent. That is actually a better car than we have. And the big piece of news from Williams is they are no longer a Mercedes customer team. They have taken Renault engines. So it's like an early 90s Williams. It is a Williams Renault car here. Whether that has got potential to win them some races. The driver lineup is not the best, but Hulkenberg should recover once that stat has come off. 18 weeks, so it's a long time. 18 weeks, so a decent car. The drivers are pretty decent overall rated in this game. It might be a little bit interesting season for Williams here, but we'll just have to see how they get on. And then we move on to AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri, their car, I mean, it's so far behind. I don't know what goes on with them. They just can't get their development going. I mean, the headquarters is pretty decent. They just don't follow a good development path. I mean, they've got the Honda engines in there from Red Bull, which aren't that great this season as well. But Yuki Tsunoda, who had no, he didn't actually get a podium last season. I mean, he had a pole position last season, did Yuki Tsunoda. Will be partnered by Alexander Albon once again. Albon obviously started last season in the Red Bull main car, got demoted to AlphaTauri when they switched over with Yuri Vips. I mean, he could be out of the Red Bull system at the end of the season unless Vips has a nightmare this season. Would they put Albon back into the Red Bull? Would they promote Tsunoda with that pole position under his name? It's all down to what Yuri Vips does this season in that Red Bull. And then finally we come to Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, the best driver lineup in the game. They had the best driver lineup last season with Leclerc and Hamilton. This season, it's Hamilton, partnered by Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo finally gets to go in the same machinery, head-to-head with Lewis Hamilton. Lewis is getting on there. His star rating is starting to drop a little bit. Whether it's going to drop much over this season, he's now 41 years old. About the same level as Daniel Ricciardo overall. The car pretty good. We can actually come here now, because we've actually gone down the full order. And as we can see, McLaren do have the best car on the grid. Actually, we'll just leave that just a second. But anyway, Hamilton, Ricciardo looking pretty good. The car looking good there as well. We'll just switch over to this and we'll go through it from this point. McLaren do have the best car on the grid. As we said, Ferrari not that far behind. Then it's Mercedes, Ford, Performance Haas right up there. Alfa Romeo, Williams, then it's us. Renault has slipped right down there. And as we can see, Red Bull Starting this season with the 10th best overall car might be a struggle in the early going for them. As regards to the engine, that Renault engine is still almighty powerful. As we can see, Williams now second best overall, having taken the Renault engines. And we've got Ford Performance Haas. I gave them a little boost, and it's just sort of just a tiny bit ahead of Mercedes here. So Ford are not doing too bad with their first engine here. Then we've got Mercedes, the customer teams then of Aston Martin and McLaren. Then we've got Ferrari and their customer teams of Alfa Romeo and Prima. Then we've got our Audi engine, which is ahead of the Honda engine, which is in the Red Bull and the AlphaTauri. In terms of gearbox, Haas have got the best gearbox. Williams right up there with Mercedes and McLaren. The brakes race is won by Ferrari. Red Bull there, which is one of their best parts. The front wing won by Ferrari, that is one of our better parts. I mean, Williams have got quite a few parts that are quite near the top, so they're going to be strong in quite a few races here. Whether Hulkenberg and Nick De Vries can get a lot out of that car is another question. We are leading the race in the suspension, whereas the rear wing, the best rear wing, is Alfa Romeo, and Haas are quite up there as well. So in races where it's in engine, gearbox and a rear wing, we could see some real good results from the Haas car, the Ford Performance Haas. Could give Max Verstappen an opportunity to win more races than he actually won in the Mercedes. But anyway, that is it. That is the Season 3 preview. A few surprising driver moves. We've got the new Ford Performance Haas going to be challenging at the front, hopefully. Next time out, we will be in Sydney. It's going to be a rainy race. Obviously, everything is going to be up in the air after that one. The races have got a little bit shorter, a tiny bit shorter, because one of the current rules this season as well is that we've got the Brutus tyres. They're quicker tyres, but they're not as durable as the tyres we had on, so the tyre life is a little bit shorter. I don't know how the AI is going to be handling that. We've also got... what else have we got? We've got something else new, which is the 2 dry weather compounds. So we no longer have 3 compounds to choose from. Before the race is just 2. So try and take an even number, hopefully. That rule that has gone through is going to help the AI as well, because, I mean, they're just going to have 2 sets of tyres. So we're going to have most of the cars running on the same tyres. Maybe running similar strategies, but hopefully that doesn't allow for them to mess up like they usually do. But anyway, that is it for the Season 3 preview. We will be back next time with the Australian Grand Prix. We'll go through, we'll see what sort of state this season is going to be in. It's going to be pretty interesting. We've got Leclerc in a Mercedes, Ricciardo in a Ferrari, we've got the Fords right up there. It's going to be a really interesting season going on here. But you never know. You never know. Could be an interesting one. But anyway, until next time, I'll see you down the road in Sydney for the first race of the season. But until that point, goodbye.